This is Couch to 50K. How to finish your first ultra marathon.
What's going on, man?
How you doing?
Cheers, buddy. How are you?
Good to see you. Yeah, fresh back from some recovery travel. I guess it was a bit of a recovery week for me within the program, as we've talked about.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was good. We took off and saw some family. But
awesome. Welcome back.
Thank you. Looking forward today to talk about races in general and like specifics and different types of formats. Towards the end, we can talk about the best way to pick your very first ultra marathon.
Awesome.
So run me through some formats. I think the typical person would say an ultra marathon, if they don't know much about it, is something farther than a marathon that's in the woods.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be too wrong. I think the technical definition is anything longer than a marathon. So 26.3 miles would technically be considered an ultra. I actually just saw some people like debating this on the internet the other day. If you go just over 26.2, is that an ultra, or where do you start to define an ultra? I think really in the world of ultra running, it's 50K. That's kind of the first standard race distance that people consider an ultra. But then it's wildly varying from there. There really are a ton of different types of formats of races that will make up an ultra. I think we could start by just kind of going down the list of like the specific different disciplines. You would have like road ultra marathons, track ultra marathons, trail ultra marathons, mountain ultra marathons. And then, maybe you get into like, I'm going to call them climate specific races, which are going to be, like the Iditarod in Alaska or something where it's like very specific to the location that it's being held. You're not going to find that format anywhere else. So it's kind of like a general breakdown of the type of running that you're going to do in the different formats. And then you're going to have within that different, you're going to have timed races versus distance races. So in a distance race, there's going to be a set distance, like, the Kodiak 100, it's a 100-mile race. Or you have Jay Trequinox 12-hour, that's a 12-hour race. Those are kind of the two different formats that you're going to find in measuring like the final of the race. And you'll find all those other ones, road, track, mountain, within those two formats. So you're going to find, a fixed time race that's on the track. And then you'll find a fixed time race in the desert. You're going to find a distance race on a road and a distance race in the mountains.
Cool. Yeah. Though I think the one of those that I was least familiar with was the timed races. You don't see a whole lot of that in just the typical road running world.
Pretty obscure.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's who can go the farthest within that amount of time, basically. Absolutely. Right? Whether that's laps or distance in some other fashion.
Yeah, it's usually going to be laps. Whether it's on a track or on the road is going to determine how far the lap is going to be. You're probably starting to see some more like in trails where there's like a trail loop, and how many of these loops can you run within a certain amount of time. The standard times are going to be like 6, 12, 24, 48 hours, 72 hours.
List up there.
There's a huge history. If you really go back into ultra running, and they called it pedestrianism. And these are 10-day races like held in Madison Square Gardens in like the early 1900s, where guys would race laps around Madison Square Gardens and people would bet on them.
Really?
And it was like speed, like the drugs, like smoking cigarettes and dudes, like it was.
That's a trip.
There's this guy, Davy Crockett, who has a podcast and some other content out there about like history of ultra running. And he's got some cool, like he's dug up some cool stories about about that time.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, very
I'd like
cool.
to check some of that out, actually.
real quick, another distinguishing thing between types of ultras, and this is kind of getting a little bit into it, but you have like a multi-day ultra, and then you have what's less than 1 day. There's a lot of difference in like the preparation and the skill sets that it takes to go between the two. But again, you're going to find those within those other formats. So on the track, 12 hours, or on the track for 10 days. You know,
Right,
those
right.
are
So we're talking about skipping nights of sleep and
totally. Yeah.
different level of accomplishment or effort, right?
Yeah. Well, and a
It's
different
not
skill
just about
set,
the running
a
anymore.
different skill set
Yeah.
is needed to be, good at 10 days versus good at running a 50K as fast as you can. I mean, those are worlds apart. That's like the 100-meter dash and the 10K on the track and field.
Right.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So, I've also heard of, and I honestly do not know the specifics here, but like a backyard ultra is a pretty
Yep.
specific thing too, right?
Yeah. So a backyard ultra is, you run a 4.1 mile loop every hour. The distinguishing thing with a backyard ultra is that the whole field starts the loop again together on the hour. So if you finish the loop within like 40 minutes, then you wait for 20 minutes and then you start the next loop
Interesting.
together.
Yeah.
And the goal is to get down to where there's only one person remaining. And so it's a bit of a game, that one. It's really competitive, or cooperative, depending, how you look at it. Like, hey, we're both going to see how far we can get together.
Okay.
But you'll find those again on tracks or trail or whatever.
Nice.
It's kind of different.
Yeah, that's
routes.
tricky, man. That sounds like my worst nightmare because I absolutely hate to stop for too long.
Yeah.
Because then it just is so much harder to that's that first step. It's like starting a whole new run every single hour,
Yep.
right? Well, until you slow down, I guess, and now you're only getting a 3-minute break or something. But
Yeah, my example of doing the 4.1 miles in 40 minutes, that doesn't normally hold up for most people for too long.
Right.
It's more like 53 minutes, 54 minutes, and then it's getting closer and closer. For me, you're right. And like one of the big parts about it is you have the opportunity to quit every hour.
right.
So it's like every hour you have to not quit.
Yeah, got to fight that
and
demon in your mind. saying,
in a
"Just
race, where you're out running in the woods, it's like, why
Might as
are
well
you
keep
going to quit?
going.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're out there,
Yeah.
but you get back to your chair and food and everybody's there. And then it's like, oh, I got to stand up and I got to go run that same loop again that I've been doing.
yeah.
It's definitely, it's a very interesting, it's like an experiment. It's very personal of like making yourself continue to get up and continue to go. Definitely got very popular in the last few years. Now there's like a world championships for it.
Oh, wow.
There's every country fields a team. And that team competes to get the most miles as a team.
Okay.
So it's more about like how many people you can have run really far. And it's gotten ridiculous. I mean, people like Belgium's running like 400 plus miles, over, it's 100 miles a day. So when you're doing 4 miles, 4.1, the reason that it's 4.1 is that comes out to 100 miles in 24 hours.
Okay.
So you're running 100 miles every 24 hours.
I was wondering where that distance came from.
So it's tough, man.
Yeah.
I had one, I was fortunate to get into, which probably like the most famous one. It's called Big Dog's Backyard Ultra in Tennessee. And like, I think I made 130 miles, which is, I was pretty good, but the winner, Maggie Gooderl, she won in 250 miles.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild, man.
Well, the crazy part is like, I wanted to quit that last lap so bad. And I did, and I quit, and that's what it was. You quit, and 5 minutes later, you're like, fuck.
I could have
I could have kept going. But then you got to sit there, and you're like, oh, no. And then everybody keeps going, and you're watching, and it's like, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that. So
It's
there's
hard.
FOMO there too.
Oh yeah, totally, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to keep going. It's super. Like everybody's into getting you to go further.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a very like the whole community there is it's a lot of fun. So it's not like it's not like competitive in the way of like trying to get the other person to stop. It's like
Right.
the more people that run far, like the easier it is for you to keep going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to be out there by yourself or going head to head.
Totally.
Like, right. That's got to be the toughest part of it there towards the end.
Yeah, when there's like 2 people left and they've been out there for like 100 miles by themselves, just
Yeah.
battling back and forth.
There's something to that too. That's cage
Yeah.
match stuff,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, cool. I feel like we gave a pretty solid overview there of what's out there.
Yeah.
So then how do we take that? I mean, I picked my race, which we've talked about a little bit, mainly because it's in my backyard. It's not a backyard ultra, but
Right.
it's right here in our town. It was the next one on the calendar that I could get to. So that made sense for me. I think there's a lot to, and part of that for me too is like I have a tendency to go after the huge thing, right? And like make a racecation out of it. Like, oh, I'm gonna do my first ultra. Let's go to Hawaii. And so now you're dealing with travel and logistics and different foods and maybe losing sleep because you're on a plane and stuff like that. So that was important for me to really simplify the logistics of it and be able to do it as easily as possible. I recognize most people probably do not have an ultra marathon of any kind in their neighborhood. So how do we, what advice would you have for picking your very first ultra to go after?
Yeah, I would look at something that interests you first. But I think you're right in that, like, making a really big deal about it. And like, I have a friend who wants to run Western States really bad. And it's like, he's not, he's going to walk it. Right. And it's like such a uber competitive race and it's such a big deal. And there's all this hoopla around it. And, sure, that's exciting. But like, in terms of like managing it for, you to get the most that you can get out of it, like that's a tall order.
Sure.
To go to like the biggest race and go do the biggest thing. And, yeah, man, you're lucky you have a race right near you. It's interesting to you. But that's what I would say. Find something that interests you. What part of ultra running interests you? Is it like going and exploring the mountains? Is it, running, a certain distance? Is it just the, ability to do it? There's races out there that are going to be, I don't want to call them easier, but it's going to be like more, like the idea that you're going to finish is going to be like, you can go do a 12-hour race where you just have to run laps and you have 12 hours to do it, and that's like let's just keep going. The pressure is going to be less, or you find that maybe you love the desert and you want to go, explore the desert. You want to be motivated to finish it. So finding a race that motivates you based on what it has, I think that's going to be really important. If you're really like a road runner and you're running fast, and you like that kind of thing, you're going to want to go find, something along that lines. Don't go pick a race up in the mountains you have no experience at, you have no, ability to train for. So you kind of want to take all those things into consideration.
Yeah.
Figure out what's like real, like we talked about, be realistic.
Sure.
Especially for your first one. Then once you, get, start to get it dialed in, then maybe start to look at the vacation races. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard not to want to do a vacation,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
like, I
of
mean,
course.
there's so many and like beautiful locations, and you don't want to say don't go do that, but yeah, it's there's something easier about like a grassroots low key
Mm-hmm.
event in terms of like making it fit your personal needs.
Right. Right. Well, and everybody's different too, right? I mean, I could see if you're just trying to hit that distance and call yourself an ultra marathoner, maybe you don't have the 6 months to go through our full program that we're putting together for this, then, maybe it is on a timed thing on a track.
Yeah.
Where every lap you've got access to your stuff and aid station kind of thing. And, you're not going to die.
Yeah.
There's like almost no fear. I could see that working for a lot of people.
Yep.
But, maybe you're the opposite of that. And you're going to get there. Right. And it's picking something a little harder, more challenging, gets you out of your comfort zone. I want to see the backcountry of Big Bear or wherever. Right. Yeah, that's cool. It's a very personal decision, but I think there's a lot that goes into it. It seems pretty crucial to not just be pressured into it by a buddy who's run 12 of them. Yeah. Come do this with me.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, maybe next year after I've done one or two,
Dude, there's a race in New York City. It's called Sri Chamois. It's a 10-day race. And you run around like a 1/4-mile block in the Bronx.
Oh, God.
And I remember learning about that, years before it's been around for a really long time. It puts up like world-class distances. Like these people run really far around it. And I'm like, who the heck would want to go do that? But then, you start to go out and you start to run and you start to do things and like mental challenges start to become an appealing part of the process. And sure, it's like, choosing a race like Ouray 100 in Colorado, that's beautiful. And you're on the top of all these mountains and like, that's going to call to a certain type of person where like, I don't know if you need that to get through it, but it's welcome. It's like, oh man, everywhere I look is beautiful. There's waterfalls. I'm crossing streams. And then there's like the type of person who's like, I want the challenge of running around the same block for 10 days. There's no, the visual stimulation is like you're inside your own head that whole time battling. You can stop whenever you want. I mean, that's like, so yeah, it's personal. Like it's really personal. But there's like such a variety of races in the ultra world that like, no matter what you're looking for, like you can find it. Yep.
Yeah. I like it.
Totally.
I like it.
Yep.
We have our mantras that we throw out there for the training month blocks. We don't really need mantra for something like this, but in terms of picking a race, I think it would, it's summing down in my mind at least a little bit as like, be realistic, but find something inspiring.
Yeah, man. That sounds good.
I think that works in my brain at least. Hopefully it works for other people too.
Yeah, I like it.
Cool, man. Well, I feel
Sweet.
good about this. Yeah.
Awesome,
Hopefully we'll
dude.
get some people out there picking their first ultra marathons.
Yeah, dude. Come run Gentry Equinox with us.
There we go. That sounds good. Cheers, man.
Cheers, dude.
Couch to 50K is an Elevated SoCal project. All rights reserved.